can I just talk about some of the events that are around today. Now, on this show, we talk a lot about the plan of Big Australia. I've told you the reality that 30 years ago, we had a country with just 18 million people in it, still a very significant number. 30 years later, so from 1995 to 2025, it's now, 28 million? And 30 years from now, as we get into the latter half of the century, or certainly the mid part of the century, I should say, we're going to be the best part of 40 million people. Now, I wouldn't think there's anyone watching this show who understands or would agree that the infrastructure that we currently have is good enough for even the 18 million people who were here 30 years ago, let alone the 27 million here, let alone the 40 that are often into the front. Well, as you know, the debate around migration has gone from the streets to Parliament House, one that we have often on this show.
Reducing mass migration means more housing, less congestion, better services, and of course that will benefit all families.
Total, complete and utter failure to control migration numbers.
More people coming in and less people leaving. And they require two very different policy solutions. One is very easy. You reduce the number of people coming in.
But of course, if you dare bring up this topic whatsoever, they've worked out the little box to push us all into, what's the word?
Racism. 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 Racism.
Thanks, mate. Well, bugger that. We're going to talk about it. And surprise, surprise, the Australian federal government, the Labor Party, who are, of course, its current occupant, have told us lies about a plan to cut migration. And yes, we're ever so down from the megas of a few years ago, but we're still way above where we've been in the past. Labor to overshoot migration forecast by not 1, not 10, but 15%. Migration is likely to be about 15% higher than that of the Treasury forecast after the government quietly sped up the process of international student visas by lowering the risk ratings for 13 different universities. Treasury has forecasted net migration of 260,000 people this year will be down from the projected 335,000 last year. However, an official from the department expects that net migration will be 15% higher, and that would mean an extra 40,000 people. As Maxwell Smart used to say, missed it by that much. Good reference to the kids who were alive in the 60s, but you get my point. This is a major issue. Now, just up and down by 40,000, it's a football stadium of people. It's a football stadium of people who obviously need somewhere to live, potentially depending on the rights they have under certain visas. Maybe people competing with your kids or grandkids when it comes to low-skilled work. Of course, it adds to all of those other strains that we've talked about before, including the one that I'm just stuck on, which is that Australia, when you call O, who knows what's going to happen? Because you see, the ambulances that would be immediately arriving to whatever's happening with you with O are often sitting at a hospital. Why? Because the hospital isn't big enough for the people who are in the ambulance to go into the hospital. It's just one example that no one ever wants to talk about, but literally is life and death. This is why the promises of getting on top of migration, getting on top of mass migration, getting on top of out-of-control migration are things to talk about. But the reality here is that, again, these international students are essentially the customers of taxpayer-funded businesses that are the education sector. And unlike many customers of many businesses, these people come to the country requiring food, housing, shelter and all the rest of it, as of course is their right. But all of that adds that further pressure. You would think that if there was one sector in particular that you could turn around and say, no, you know what, we're actually a little bit over this year. We're going to pull back here. But of course, that would be racist, offensive, against higher education. Bugger that.